Hey everyone, welcome to That's Peculiar. I'm Nathan.
I'm Andra.
And Andra's got a show for you today.
I also have a fun fact. But first,
perfect. What?
talk about your day.
My day? Oh, I flew a plane today. I went on a discovery flight to see if I want to get into piloting. That's it. It was cool.
And
it was fun. It was fun. I mean, I didn't take off and I didn't land or do like any of the really important things. We literally got up to altitude and he said, okay, this is, pull back, go up.
I would hope they didn't let you land.
I would have loved to have landed. That would have been cool.
I don't think you'd be sitting here today.
Or you don't know that.
I don't.
But no, it's really cool. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I haven't 100% decided if I want to do it, but I'm leaning towards yes, because I was sitting there. I'm like, I could learn all this. I could do this.
Yeah.
At least on a small plane. I will have to work out towards the big ones.
Do you think you'd ever do both, like flight attendant and pilot?
There's no possible way.
Like you can't be a flight attendant and a pilot?
No, there's no way you could do that.
Interesting.
Because you would have to be like, I'm only available on these days, and you'd have to have the seniority to actually hold those days. And then same with the pilot, you'd have to have seniority to be like, I'm only available these days.
I bet somebody would work with you.
I doubt it.
Well, you know more than I do.
At least on that front.
Yeah. Well, yeah, we both have our strengths.
Yes. What's your fun fact?
It's an interesting one, and I was doing dishes for the umpteenth time today.
It never dishes and laundry never stop as an adult.
Yeah. Well, I was doing them and I created them. So randomly this popped in my head, and I don't know why, but Stepakuchka or Glupavakuchka means stupid bitch in Bulgarian.
We went from dishes to Bulgarian?
Yeah, so shout out to Tomanushka for teaching me that when I worked at a coffee shop stand in Alaska. We would be super annoyed with the customers, and I would pretend I was also Bulgarian with an accent and that I didn't understand them because it was 4 a.m. And what else was I going to do?
Why did I never know this when you worked at Starbucks?
I don't know. You did it?
No.
And then we would say Tepakuchka when we thought someone was like really stupid. But to reverse the roles, I'm pretty sure Tomanushka called me Tepakuchka because I could not say Tomanushka for my life when I started. Granted, I learned it at 4 a.m.
Tomanushka?
Yeah, but I kept forgetting, and then finally she let me call her Nushka.
Oh, it's not first name Tom. It's one name, Tomanushka.
Tomanushka is one name.
I thought his name was Tom and his last name was Manushka.
Tomanushka is
and
a
that's
gal.
Her first name.
Yeah.
Cool.
And I learned it at 4 a.m. pre-coffee, and I sat there. She goes, Tomanushka, with her accent, and I just stared at her.
Tomanushka. And you're like, I'm sorry. What about what?
Yeah. And she has this voice that is a little deeper.
Tomanushka.
And she kind of, no, not like that. But she would mumble a little bit. So her voice is lower, and she'd kind of mumble. And half the time I'd be like, can you fucking say that louder? We have like a fridge that's louder than you. Like,
I can't hear you, Tomanushka. Speak up.
Anyways, I thought that was fun. And
so what is it again? No, give it to me again. So
Tepakuchka is what we would say.
Tepakuchka?
Yeah, but the correct, like that's the slang version, but Glupavakuchka is like...
Glupavakuchka?
Yeah, that's what pops up when you like look it up phonetically, but she taught me Tepakuchka.
All right, cool. That's a fun one.
Yeah, it is.
Here's to you.
Thank you. So today, you have no idea what we're talking about.
I rarely do.
we are going to talk about a supposed ghost ship and how its occupants went missing.
A supposed ghost ship, because they exist today.
No.
They do. They find ghost ships all the time.
Like ships ran by no one.
Ghost ship meaning there's no people on board. Like there's a sailboat that recently was next to a cruise ship, and it was a ghost ship because nobody was on it. It was abandoned.
This one was like that as well. It was just running by itself.
When running by itself,
sailing by itself.
Okay. I was like,
so we are going to talk about the Mary Celeste, or sometimes known as the Mary Celeste. Do you know about it?
No, I've never heard of that one.
Okay, I just want to put a note in here for anyone who doesn't know. I will be saying her or she for the boat. Boats are girls for some reason, and that's how they refer to her.
So are cars and planes and...
Well, for anyone who doesn't know, if they're like, who's her?
Down with the patriarchy.
It's the boat.
We're going to start calling boats men.
Maybe.
It's always a girl's name, too. Like, Mary... What is it? Celeste?
It's Mary Celeste.
Mary
but
Celeste.
Also referred to as Mary.
Yeah. And you have, like... I don't know. It's always women's names.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Okay. So, Mary Celeste, often referred to as Marie, was a Canadian-built, American-registered merchant brigantine. Just means it's a really big boat. Picture Pirates of the Caribbean, the Black Pearl.
Yes.
Kind of what those look like.
What year was it commissioned?
This was in 1861.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So that's when it was built, and then registration. So Mary Celeste was built in Spencer's Island, Nova Scotia, and launched under British registration as Amazon in 1861. So its original name was Amazon.
What?
Mm-hmm.
That's so weird.
And it was under British registration. The ship was constructed of locally felted timber with 2 masts and was rigged as a brigantine. She was carvel built, the hull planking flush rather than overlapping. If you know anything about boats, maybe you'll know what that means.
Okay, so I know what 2 masts are, but tell me about the planking on the deck again.
It just wasn't overlapping, so I guess they used to kind of do that setup for some of them. This is like, it's flush, so it was just like in a row.
They used to overlap and not be flush?
Yeah.
I'm going to have to learn some things about boats now.
Yeah, I don't know anything about it, but it says overlapping. And when I looked it up, it was like, have you ever seen our floor, like flooring that's really thin and it's almost like crisscross?
Yeah.
That's kind of what it looked like.
Oh, okay. That's so weird.
Yeah, I didn't know that they even built boats like that, because every boat I've been on, I haven't been on that many boats. Actually, I don't even think I've been on a wood boat.
Ever?
I've been on a sailboat, but I can't remember what it looked like.
I don't think I haven't been on a wooden boat either. I've been on like a ski boat, but that's not the same.
I don't think the sailboat was even wooden.
Huh. But there was wood, there was probably wood on the deck, no?
Everything was white. That's what I know. So her registration documents described her as, there's a point why I'm going into this because she changes. So her registration documents describes her as 99.3 feet in length, 25.5 feet broad, and with a depth of 11.7 feet. So that's pretty good.
99 by 25 by 11.
Yeah.
Okay.
And just think, they must have had, it doesn't say, but I feel like that had to have been like almost a basement level and then a quarters level and then the top. Because if it's 11 feet broad,
11 feet
doesn't matter.
tall.
Yeah.
Yeah. They probably
But all of that,
they probably had a couple decks.
yeah. So, and 98 gross tonnage.
Tonnage?
She was tonnage, sure.
Tonnage. She was
Yeah,
heavy.
it is. Oh, I was thinking this the whole time. I was thinking this is the amount that she could hold.
What is it? What does it say again?
198 gross
Gross.
tonnage.
Gross. Why would they say gross? I wonder if that is what her max capacity would have been as far as
Probably
what she
not.
could carry.
Probably not, but that's how because it had gross in it, I was thinking that's how much, not how much she weighed, how much she could carry.
I think that's how much she weighs.
So that makes sense.
Huh. I don't know that part, so I can't. If you're a boat person, I mean,
let us know.
Please.
She was owned by a local consortium. Do you know what that is?
Consortium.
Mm-hmm. That's what it is? Okay. Of 9 people. So it's a grouping of people. Headed by Dewis. Among the co-owners was Robert McClellan, the ship's first captain.
Okay.
So for her maiden voyage in June 1861, Amazon, as she was previously known, sailed to 5 islands, Nova Scotia, to take on a cargo of timber for passage across the Atlantic to London.
Timber? Interesting. I'm sorry. I have to have an ADHD moment. Just because I heard it. So I do actually have a fun fact. I'm sorry. It's, 10 minutes. It's 10 minutes into the episode. Fine. The only reason it's a fun fact now is because the Mary, whatever her last name is.
Celeste.
Thank you, Celeste. Mary Celeste. Her original name being Amazon made me think of the Amazon ad that I just heard.
What is it?
You can buy a car on Amazon. Hyundai.
Yeah, I did know that.
You did? Oh, I just heard
I've heard it before you.
Yeah, I just heard a Hyundai commercial to buy on Amazon, and I was like, what? That's so weird. Yeah. Anyway, okay, maiden voyage, picking up timber. Okay.
I don't know if I would trust buying a car on Amazon.
Well, they don't deliver it. It's not like, you have to go pick it up.
I don't know if I would trust that.
Why? You're going to the Hyundai. We're going off a major tangent. You go on Amazon and you buy a Hyundai, and then you go to the Hyundai lot and you pick up the car that you purchased.
Yeah, I understand, but
what's not to trust?
If you go directly to Hyundai, they might give you different deals. Amazon.
Well, yeah, that's part of but people.
Why not?
I hate going to the car dealership and sitting there and arguing.
You can just email argue.
It means I have to argue. I don't just give me the deal. Why do I have to fight you on this?
You think Amazon gives you the deal?
No,
what's worse
of course
is
not.
They're probably upcharging it to take a cut of the car.
Oh, probably. I'm not saying I'm not going to buy a car on Amazon.
Don't buy cars. I don't trust that.
They're like, it's 10% off.
Yeah. So back to the show.
Yeah.
After supervising the ship, so they traveled and they went across the Atlantic to London.
Yes.
After supervising the ship's loading, Captain McClellan fell ill. His condition worsened. The Amazon returned to Spencer's Island, where McClellan died on June 19th. So that is the first weird thing with this ship.
Maiden voyage, died when we got back.
Yep, and he was a healthy guy other than that. And then died on her first maiden voyage.
Yep, on the maiden voyage. Huh.
Yeah. So John Nutting Parker took over as captain and resumed the voyage to London, in the course of which Amazon encountered further misadventures. She collided with fishing equipment in the Narrows of Eastport, Maine, and after leaving London, ran into and sank a brig in the English Channel.
Okay, so people don't know how to captain this thing.
Parker remained in command for 2 years.
It's not the boat's fault.
Well, people say that it sails itself.
Okay.
During which, so Parker remained in command for 2 years, during which Amazon worked mainly in the West Indies trade. Amazon the boat.
Yeah.
In 1863, Parker was succeeded by William Thompson, who remained in command until 1867, so for 4 years.
Okay.
And the Mediterranean, what we call the foreign trade, nothing unusual happened with him as captain.
Huh. I wonder why.
William Thompson is great.
He's good at his job. He can captain a boat.
In October 1867, at Cape Breton Island, Amazon was driven ashore in a storm and was so badly damaged that her owners abandoned her in a wreck.
Oh.
On October 15th, 1867, she was acquired as a broken ship by Alexander McBean of Glace Bay, Nova Scotia.
They salvaged it?
Well, within a month, McBean sold the wreck to a local businessman who in November 1868 sold it to Richard W. Haynes as an American. He's a American mariner from New York.
How do you get into the business of selling broken boats?
Do you want to ask McBean in 1868?
I would love to. Like, do these guys profit? Because it would be like, that's a broken boat.
Well, so Haynes paid $1,750 for the wreck. And then he spent $8,825. This is American, restoring it.
Yeah.
He made himself her captain. Sorry, that was... It confused my brain to see himself and her next to each other. He made himself her captain, and in December 1868 registered her with the Collector of Port of New York as an American vessel under the new name Mary Celeste.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. In October 1869, the ship was seized by Haynes' creditors and sold to a New York consortium. Thank you. Headed by James H. Winchester.
Winchester. Is it
I looked
like
it up.
The Winchester or just last name?
I looked it up and I didn't find too many ties, but he could just be so far back because it just kept bringing up the boat.
Huh.
And then I even tried to look up the Winchester Mystery House and go backwards.
Yeah.
There was something about the Civil War and selling guns, so it might be one and the same.
Huh.
He owned Winchester Corporation.
Oh, that's so fascinating.
I know. And when I chose this, I didn't know that. So
we've got Tahoe Tessie making a comeback a few times. Winchester Mystery House mentioned. Love it.
Possibly.
We can't confirm. She couldn't figure it out.
Yeah. I looked, but this is 1869, and
whatever.
During the next 3 years, I was like, that's not what I'm talking about. So I'm just gonna keep going. During the next 3 years, the composition of this consortium, why is that word so hard to say, changed several times, although Winchester remained at least half share throughout. So no record of Mary Celeste trading activities during this period have been found.
So what did they do with it? Her.
There's some suspicion on that.
Like
possible illegal activity, illegal trade,
like drug running.
I was just thinking alcohol, but maybe
alcohol. Well, yeah, I mean that time alcohol, drugs, ladies of the night. I don't know.
Cinnamon. So I think cinnamon was hard to come by. I'm just kidding.
Can we get some cinnamon?
But I actually do think spices were really hard to come by, and there was like funky trade with spices.
That's so interesting that they would have a captain and all this stuff, and then they don't have any information. That's shady.
Yeah, there's speculation on it. Early in 1872, the ship, it was just remodeled. He just spent $8,000 on it, and then it was seized from him, right?
Yeah, and they were like, ours.
Yeah, and then in early 1872, the ship underwent a major refit, costing $10,000, which enlarged her considerably.
Enlarged her?
I know, I was surprised as well.
Oh, geez.
Her length was increased to 103 feet.
They increased her by 4 feet in length.
I just thought that was a lot. It says breadth, but it looks weird. Went to 25.7 feet.
She was 20, and she was 25 before, right?
I think that's right, but her depth went to 16.2 feet.
Made her deeper.
Yeah.
Wow.
Among the structural changes, a second deck was added. An inspector's report refers to extensions to the poop deck, new transoms, and replacements of many timbers. The work increased the tonnage to 282.
Oh, wow, that made her real heavy. That's so weird. So that means if they added a second deck, that means that their original Amazon only had the one.
I think one deck, but I was thinking a second layer inside the ship, right?
Wouldn't that be that's a deck though?
Really?
Yeah. Isn't that how it is?
I assumed the deck was like up.
There's the deck, and then if there's another deck, that's the second deck. I don't know. I'm not a shipbuilder.
I can't imagine that previously, what was it? She was 11 feet.
Yeah, 11 feet deep.
Nobody would be able to see over the ship if there wasn't anything underneath.
What are you talking about?
If it was just one deck.
There's the top deck, and then you have the interior, which would be all storage, or like where you would put items.
People?
Yeah. Timber.
So where would they put a second deck? Are you saying they then put a deck in there?
Once they made it taller, they added a second deck, which is where they could do
inside the boat,
which would be the second deck.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the one deck, there's always the one deck where you would have stuff, and then you have the second deck. That's just at least my understanding with boats.
Yeah, no, it makes sense, but the way I was picturing it when I read it is that it was almost like a basement underneath it and a deck. And then, of course, the top deck. But I don't...
Oh. Okay.
That's how I pictured it.
So you still imagine that there was like another...
something in there. Because no matter what, they have equipment. They have like... We'll get into it more, but they have like tools and stuff down there that they have to get to. They can't just like fill that whole thing with storage. So I feel like they almost had to have something else in there, but I don't know. I'm not a boat person.
Yeah, I don't know what because second deck, I mean, you would still have like a plank where you could walk on the bottom or like planks or whatever. That wouldn't make it. I thought of a
second deck even being like above so they can see other stuff.
Oh, like a second, like you have the main deck and then you have like the second deck, which would have like the
people to see.
Yeah, and then you have the crow's nest or whatever.
When you look at the ship, it literally just looks like the Black Pearl. So picture that.
Curious.
The work. On October 29th, 1872, the consortium was made up of Winchester with 6 shares and 2 other minor investors with 1 share apiece. The remaining 4 of 12 shares being held by the ship's new captain, Benjamin Spooner Biggs. So who is Benjamin Spooner Biggs?
Big eater.
I don't think so. The Biggs family of Massachusetts had a long maritime connection, and Benjamin Biggs himself spent most of his life at sea.
He's a seaman.
He was Big Spooner, the seaman himself.
Big Spooner, the seaman himself.
Well, he was an experienced handy.
Handsy or handy?
It's hardy. Experienced hardy. I read it wrong.
Hardy?
So our mind is in the gutter. An able seaman. He reportedly was respected by those who served under him. I did this research. It was not this funny.
They served under him, did they?
Yeah. Because of his fairness and ability.
That doesn't make things any better.
Nope. He was very fair.
I love a good seaman.
Oh, I bet. He worked his
As long
way.
as they're fair and their abilities are good.
My baby's yelling at me, knocking on the window. So he worked his way to eventually become a master mariner. Brig. Stop.
We're fine. Everything's fine.
Briggs captained the Brigantine Sea Foam, and in 1862 became master of the three-masted schooner Forest King. When he took command of the bark Arthur in 1865, he turned over command to Forest King, his brother.
Who took over?
Of the Forest King to his brother, Oliver Biggs.
Okay, so a different ship that he... Okay, cool.
Yeah, so he took over the Arthur and gave his brother, Oliver Biggs, the Forest King.
Okay, so who is getting Mary?
Eventually, William Briggs, Spooner. So Oliver Briggs was a frequent business and partner and sailor with his brother, so it wasn't unusual for him to give him something. Briggs, I thought this was interesting, so I added it in. You never hear about Oliver again, so just erase his name. Briggs was devoutly religious and a believer in abstinence.
Oh.
I never thought of a captain of a ship being abstinent. Yeah, so he didn't drink or anything.
He abstained from alcohol.
Right, it's not sexually abstinent.
Oh, I thought he was sexually abstinent. I was like, okay.
No.
Gay.
When you look at it, he is a seaman. No, when you look it up, it's actually like a belief of like no alcohol, and I thought that was interesting.
So he didn't drink.
He has a child later, so
okay,
he's not abstinent.
Definitely not abstinent. Okay.
In 1862, he married Sarah Elizabeth Cobb, and she was the daughter of Reverend Leander Cobb. The newlyweds sailed to Europe in Briggs' schooner Forest King, so before he gave it to his brother. Their son, Arthur Briggs, was born, and I thought this was cute. He named it after the boat he took over in 1865. His son is named Arthur, and then his boat was named Arthur, and I just thought that was cute. So he had a son with Sarah Elizabeth in 1865 at the family home. And the following year, the family traveled to France, returning in time for the birth of their daughter, Sophia, on October 31st, so Halloween 1870. Okay, you got all that?
Yeah.
Okay, this is where I just wanted to talk a little bit about him because no one else does. On November 7th, 1872, the 282-ton brigantine set sail from New York Harbor on its way to Genoa, Italy.
Okay.
With Briggs being the new captain of Mary Celeste. So on board was Benjamin Briggs, his wife, their 2-year-old daughter. They left their son at home to go to school.
Okay.
And 8 other crew members.
That's it? Only 8? Oh, wow.
Yeah, it did surprise me too. Less than a month later, on December 5th, a passing British ship called De Gratia, it's like De Gratia, actually, which is weird. It's a British ship, but it has a very, like, Italian-sounding name to me, spotted the Mary Celeste at full sail and adrift about 400 miles east. Captain David Morehouse was taken aback to discover that the unguided vessel was the Mary Celeste, which had left New York City 8 days before him and should have arrived in Genoa, Italy. He changed course to offer help. Morehouse sent a boarding party to the ship. Below decks, the ship's charts had been tossed about. The crewmen's belongings were still in their quarters. The ship's only lifeboat was missing, and one of its 2 pumps had been disassembled. 3.5 feet of water was sloshing in the ship's bottom, though the cargo of 1,701 barrels of industrial alcohol was largely intact. There was a 6-month supply of food and water, but not a soul on the boat.
What happened? Like, why would they abandon ship?
It's a big question. After Morehouse discovered this, 10 days later, they went back to the British Vice, to the court, and convened a salvage hearing. Apparently this was common, which was usually limited to determining whether salvagers, in this case, the crewmen of the how did I say that again? De Gratia? Yeah, it's De Grati. Or De Gratia. Yeah, were entitled for payment, or whether there was something mischievous. Frederick Solly Flood, he was the attorney general in the inquiry, suspected mischief and investigated. After more than 3 months, the court found no evidence of foul play. So eventually the salvagers received a payment, but only 1/6 of the $46,000 for which the ship and cargo had been insured, suggesting that authorities were not entirely convinced of the crew's innocence. There's that. Aside from...
of the crew's innocence of the De Gratia?
Mm-hmm.
Like they caused issue, but they found nobody on there.
So they say.
So, but they said, but the lifeboat was missing.
So I believe the De Gratia crew did the right thing. I don't think they did anything.
Yeah, I feel like they're not pirates.
But there's been speculation that maybe they actually caused something to happen, took over Mary Celeste, and then went to go salvage it for money.
But they didn't leave the Mary. They didn't leave the Mary there when they left. They tow it.
Half of the crew sailed it back.
Oh, but one of the pumps had been
disassembled,
and there was 3.5 feet of water inside. Okay.
Yeah, so it was fine. They got it back, no problem.
I mean, it's only 3 feet of water and 25 feet, so whatever. That's just weird to me that they found this boat. Nothing really seemed to be wrong with it. It was at full sail. If you were having an emergency situation on a boat that at full sail, one of the first things you do is take the sails down.
No, so that's exactly why this is such a mystery to people. It was a ghost ship. It was running itself. There was no reason for them to get off. They had plenty of food, plenty of water, plenty of alcohol. The boat was
industrial
fine.
Alcohol, whatever that's used for.
Yeah. The boat was fine.
They hadn't seen any damage. They just had that water.
Right.
Which means it could have just sailed through rain, but,
Or it could have, boats take in water sometimes. So.
Yeah. So weird.
Yeah, so the next thing I have in here, why would an experienced captain, such as Briggs, or his sailors abandon a perfectly sound ship?
Literally, there would be no reason. Unless someone was super sick, but wouldn't you just turn around and go back from whence you came?
So they've never been seen again.
Well, they died at sea. If they took the only lifeboat available, the whole crew, and those three, then they were in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean.
They were. We'll get into it. I don't know exactly where they are, but it is speculated that they possibly went to land.
But if they made it to land, they left their son in the United States. Who would do that?
No way back.
Get it on the next boat, leaving wherever you went. I gotta go back to the United States.
They think they were on an island of land that people didn't travel to. So let's get into it.
Please.
Why would an experienced captain leave a ship?
They wouldn't.
Yeah. Theories over the years have ranged from mutiny, pirate attack, to assault by a giant octopus or sea monster, while the more scientifically minded propose an explosion caused by fumes from the 1,700 barrels of crude alcohol in the ship's hold. According to the last entry in the ship's logbook made that morning by Mary Celeste, they were within sight of the Azores island of Santa Maria, some 500 miles from where the De Gracia would find them 9 days later. So let's talk about MacGregor and some of the theories a little bit more. 2007 documentary, The True Story of the Mary Celeste. This was promoted by the Smithsonian. You can also look up a lot of information on the Smithsonian. There's also a lot of other historical sites that you can use. I used a couple and I have them linked. This is a documentary in 2007, The True Story of the Mary Celeste, was able to offer no definitive conclusion, but did suggest a scenario in which a faulty chronometer, so the direction, rough seas, and a clogged onboard pump could have left Briggs to order the ship abandoned shortly after sighting land, November 25th, 1872. So sighting land.
So them seeing land and having issues with the boat, he could have had them abandon ship. But wouldn't you just try to sail it to the land and then fix your issues and then get back on track?
Right. This is why I don't believe this personally. And this guy spent most of his life at sea.
He knows how to sail a ship.
And I also feel like a lot of those didn't necessarily need chronometers like people today. Like they used to follow the sun, the clouds, the wind,
stars,
all
whatever.
of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and to me, it's not an answer. But let's dive into it. MacGregor had 4 previous investigation documentaries, including the Hindenburg disaster, probable cause, and 2 others. She applied modern forensic techniques to historical questions. For Mary Celeste film, MacGregor began asking what didn't happen. So she went through all of the speculations concerning everything. Mm-hmm. So the ship's condition intact led to assume, and full cargo led to assume no pirates.
Yeah, there was nothing missing.
Which is also why they didn't think of sea monster.
Because nothing was broken. The only thing was a dismantled pump.
Right.
And a missing lifeboat.
Yeah. One theory about it was like in the 19th century, crew members drank the alcohol on board and mutinied after interviewing crewmen's descendants. MacGregor deemed that scenario unlikely. So she doesn't think there was like a mutiny that took over.
I feel like there was a mutiny, there would be dead bodies on board.
Yeah, and that it wouldn't just be everyone would be gone on one boat together.
Yeah, it would have been like there was people left behind that are trying to get the boat to do what they want it to do,
or someone dead,
or someone's
yeah.
dead, or there would be, I feel like or like blood could be, somewhere stained on the deck, things like that. And I feel like you would see that if it was a mutiny.
Right. Another theory assumed that alcohol vapors expanded in the Azores heat and blew off the main hatch, prompting those aboard to fear an imminent explosion. But McGregor notes that the boarding party found the main hatch aired and did not report smelling any fumes. It's just a theory.
That's interesting. I don't like that one.
Yeah. So McGregor said she loves the idea of mysteries, but you should always revisit these things using knowledge that has come to light. The documentarian who launched the investigation and wrote and directed and produced the true story of Mary Celeste, partly with funding from the Smithsonian Networks. So abandoning a ship in the open sea is the last thing a captain would order and a sailor to do. But is that what Captain Briggs ordered? If so, why? McGregor figured that if she could determine the precise spot from which Briggs and his family abandoned the ship and the crew, she might be able to shed light on why.
How would you be able to do that?
Well, they knew the last point that the ship was seen. And they traced it to where the cross points were of where the ship was found.
Okay.
And then she kind of studied where it would be abandoned. So to do this, she worked backwards and created a path between those 2 points. Why was it abandoned was still the hardest question.
Yeah.
On this point, McGregor says, on the point that it was still why? Attorney General Solly Flood's notes are crucial. He wrote that he saw nothing unusual about the voyage until the last 5 days, which is why he transcribed the ship's log starting 5 days from the end. The ship's log is believed to have been lost in 1885, so those transcripts provided only means for McGregor and Richardson to plot the course and the positions. But what he stated has been lost. So their conclusion, Briggs was actually 120 miles west of where he thought he was. So they think he was inaccurate because of the chronometer. By the captain's calculations, he should have been sighted land 3 days earlier than what he did. So McGregor learned that on its previous voyage, the Mary Celeste had carried coal, and that the ship had recently been extensively refitted. Coal dust and construction debris could have fouled the ship's pumps, which would explain the disassembled pump found on Mary Celeste.
But there was two pumps.
Right. With the pump inoperative, Briggs would not have known how much seawater was in the ship's hull, which was fully packed, too fully packed for him to measure visually, because it was a full ship. At that point, McGregor believes Briggs, having come through rough weather, having finally and belatedly sighted land, and having no way of determining whether his ship would sink, she thinks they abandoned to that land.
I still don't believe that. I don't like that.
To me, how is it that the ship goes missing and nobody goes looking for it?
Yeah, if you did let's say you did abandon your ship and you went to land, wouldn't you be like, that's my ship, I gotta get back out there and figure out some things?
Or vice versa. Think about the De Gradia people. Why wouldn't they go search the closest land then?
Yeah, and be like,
to where the ship was found.
Is the captain here? Also, my thing still too is, why are the sails at full sail if you're abandoning ship? If you think your ship is going to, sink, wouldn't you close all of your tarps and then lower your boat to escape?
Yeah, I would think.
So you're not going, 1,000
Unless
knots.
something crazy was happening.
Yeah, that's
And
so weird to me.
it's also crazy how far the ship sailed without anyone on it.
Yeah, that's a weird.
But apparently that's common.
Bizarre. I don't like her saying that. Your sales.
I don't like McGregor's theories
her theory.
either.
Yeah, her theory doesn't make sense because the sales were full. If you can account for why the sales were full, then I could probably listen more. But the fact that I'm not going to abandon ship that's going full speed.
I think she's almost, and I don't mean this in a rude way. I don't think she'll ever listen to this, but I don't mean it in a rude way. I think she's almost too close-minded and wants to point to science for everything. But there's things that you can't account for, like emotion or whatever was happening on there. Like,
but
they had food, but what else was happening?
Yeah, and it's for me, it's the sales. If I'm getting off a boat that's going really fast, I'm slowing it down before I get off.
Well, this was an idea of what happened, but there's no answers.
Yeah, it's so
and there's
weird.
more research to be done.
Well, there's no way because there's no wreck. They found the boat intact. They salvaged it. So you only have more questions than answers when it comes to what happened. And without finding the captain and the crew and his family, you're never gonna know.
There was actually several different captains after this had happened.
Yeah.
And the last captain, I don't remember his name. I didn't think it was pertinent to the story. He actually sank the Mary Celeste.
Oh, by choice or an accident?
They say it was by choice to commit insurance fraud.
Oh.
But I kind of wonder because so many weird things had already happened.
Yeah.
And then there was an author that thought he had found, like a famous author, thought he had found the boat, the Mary Celeste, but it turned the wood on it was too new. So it wasn't the Mary Celeste.
So they don't know where the Mary Celeste was sunk either?
Mm-mm.
Weird.
Mm-hmm.
What else? Is that it?
What do you think?
Is that everything?
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, I hate that.
I know. I know. I knew you would. But there's no answers. That's what's hard.
I think for you to abandon a boat going full speed, there's something extra going on.
Wrong.
Yeah,
there's something wrong.
Yeah, the fact that you couldn't get your crew to close tarp and all that stuff just doesn't add up.
I also think, like, what if there never was a safety boat?
There would be. I mean, but that would have been noted in logs that it was missing its lifeboat.
Well, maybe, unless they didn't realize it was missing. But I'm thinking, like, why is it that they just went on a lifeboat and went to land? There's so many other things that could have happened to them.
Yeah, I don't know. It's really weird.
But also weird to think, is there a whole civilization made by William Briggs on, like, an island somewhere?
I hope not.
Him and his wife and his baby of sailor and the crew.
If they were
sailors.
near that land, I feel like they would have tried to find them. That's also why it's weird.
That's where I am. Like, you're hung up on, like, the sails. I'm hung up on, like, why didn't they go looking for him?
Why didn't they go to the land that he was supposedly next to and be like, is the captain here?
They were just like, no one knows what happened.
We don't know.
That's it.
Yeah, that's weird.
It's so annoying that they didn't even, like, go searching the land around. Like, even if they thought he was off course, don't you think people would go searching around the area?
Even that's my thing is for a captain like him for his season, he wouldn't just use his chronograph. He would have been like, this seems wrong, and he would have used his other tools of navigation.
The sun, the star, like, this lady McGregor is coming from today's society where we're technology based, everything.
Yeah.
You had a lot more skill that I do not have. So I don't know.
All right. Well, I mean, Thanks for sharing
What are
that
you
really.
guys?
Thank you for
Thanks.
sharing that really upsetting story that has no end.
You're welcome.
Well,
I hope you had fun during it.
it's very interesting.
Mhm.
But join us next time on That's Peculiar. We'll talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening to That's Peculiar. We love all your support. Please keep sharing, commenting, and if you're new here, give us a follow. If you have a peculiar story you would like to hear or share, send us an email to perpetuallypeculiarpod@gmail.com.